You're listening to the Why Boarding School podcast, broadcasting around the world. Join us as we promote independent boarding schools throughout the United States and Canada with our invited guests. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jeffrey Quebec.
Welcome to the Why Boarding School podcast. I'm Jeff Quebec, and today I'm joined by the Director of Advancement and Enrollment Management at Indian Springs School in Indian Springs, Alabama, Taylor Docking. Welcome, Taylor. It's great to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat.
So with a founding date of 1952 as an all-boys school to eventually becoming coeducational in the 1970s, Indian Springs School certainly has a wonderful history. And Taylor, perhaps you can start off by giving our audience a brief overview of the number of students at Indian Springs School, the grades you offer, where the students come from, etc.
Yeah, sure. So we have 340 students. It's our largest enrollment in school history this year, and we feel like we've kind of reached our cap. So 340 now, and probably will be 340 for years to come. Serve 8 through 12. So that's one thing that makes us fairly unique, is that we have an 8th grade. We keep it intentionally pretty small at about 32, and then each high school grade is, between 70 and 80. So located in Birmingham, Alabama, big 350-acre campus. So, I think pretty unique and special place.
That's great. That's great. And so what's the academic curriculum like at Indian Springs School?
Yeah, in some ways, I heard one time that 80% of independent schools are the same, and it's that 20% that makes each one different. And so I say that because in some ways it's what you expect of a college prep, rigorous independent school. Our students are taking English, history, math, science, foreign language, kind of through the entirety of their experience here. And then they have 2 additional sections that they can fill with elective courses, which of course can range from an additional AP course to computer science, engineering, etc. But really the educational experience is guided by our motto, learning through living, which has been a part of who we are since we were founded in 1952, which means kind of a lot of different things, but essentially it's a belief that students learn more, they're more engaged, and usually they're far happier in their learning when they can be as hands-on as possible in their learning. And so we really weave hands-on learning opportunities into every single aspect of our curriculum. So that's one, I think, of the defining features of the academic experience.
So for those hands-on experiences, does that include things perhaps like in the visual performing arts? Do you have offerings in those areas?
Yeah, visual and performing arts, painting, drawing, ceramics, sculpture, 2D design, 3D design. But like I said, 350-acre campus, and we're in a climate that's warm all year round. So we have this unique ability to weave our 12-acre lake and our wooded hiking trails and the wildlife habitats and all of that into our lessons all year round. And then even in the humanities, we just find ways to get our students up and moving around and active and on campus and off campus as often as possible. So it looks different depending on the discipline.
That's great. Are there any signature programs that are offered at Indian Springs, Taylor?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're a very musical school,
Okay.
and kind of always have been. We joke that our choir is our football team. Don't have an American football team. That's very unique for the South, SEC country. And our choir has about 100 students in it.
Wow.
So it's almost
That's awesome.
a third of our school. It's in the choir. I'd say about 65% have sung choir before, and again, the other 35% are joining when they get here. But anyways, our choir will travel around the country and around the world and perform for professional audiences. So that's a signature program. We also have a class called Contempt, where each section forms its own band. And so there's a lead singer, guitarist, drummer, and each class or band produces 2 songs and then performs their songs at an all-school kind of battle of the band style concert. And that's
nice.
in addition to what you might expect in terms of an orchestra and things like that. So, but that's one of probably 3 or 4 signature programs.
So is there a faculty band that gets involved in that too?
Yeah, well, we do have at choir concerts faculty alums who were in the choir here who will get up and sing with the choir And every once in a while, someone will pick up a guitar and kind of pop into a contempt class and play. So we've got some really talented faculty as well, musically.
Would we find Taylor Docking among those?
Yeah, unfortunately not. That's one of my regrets, is quitting all the instruments I started in childhood pretty quickly after starting. Especially now being here, it sort of is just in the air.
That's great.
So yeah.
That's great. So how about athletics? Is every student required to play a sport? And so what are some of the athletic offerings also that our Indian Springs has?
Yeah, we actually don't have any sort of activity requirement. There is talk of that each year.
Okay.
But, our students are getting involved kind of the way that they would like. For some, that's extracurricularly. For many, that's athletically. And, we do offer a number of sports. Boys and girls soccer are probably our strongest sports. Girls volleyball is quite strong. Boys and girls basketball. We have 6 tennis courts right on campus. Baseball, softball, again, fields right on campus. Golf, swimming, wrestling, and more. So, yeah, we do have most of the kind of main athletic offerings and the facilities right on campus to support it.
That's great. So we're going to do, Taylor, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to learn more about the Indian Springs School in Indian Springs, Alabama.
Do you have any questions or guests that you'd like to see on an upcoming Why Boarding School podcast? You can contact us directly through our website at whyboardingschool.com. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the Why Boarding School podcast. I'm Jeff Quebec, and I'm joined by Taylor Docking, who's the Director of Advancement and Enrollment Management at the Indian Springs School in Indian Springs, Alabama. It's great to have you here today, Taylor. And as we continue our conversation, I guess I'd like to find out from you is, what's a typical school day like at Indian Springs?
Yeah, so classes start at 8 a.m. and they go until 3:20, although our teachers are in their classrooms until 4, so there's 40 minutes baked in each day for students to get help at the end of the day. Students have 3 other classes in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and one thing that's fairly unique about us is we have an 85-minute lunch, which is a pretty long lunch, and there's a few reasons for that, but the main reason is, again, our choir is a big thing here, and we never wanted students to have to choose between choir and another after-school activity. So the students who are in the choir actually practice during lunch for 40 minutes and then have 45 minutes to eat. Students not in the choir have an 85-minute lunch. So it kind of feels like a college campus during that time where, students eat, but then some students go and shoot hoops. Some students take a kayak out on the lake. We even have a fishing club that will fish during lunch and more. And then for boarding students, the vast majority are involved in some sort of after-school activity from roughly 4 to 5:30, and then they're grabbing dinner for an hour or so, and there's a check-in at 7:15, study hall from 7:30 to 9. Again, a little free period, 9 to 10, check-in at 10, and then lights out starts 10:30, 11. So that's kind of a typical day.
And so how about the weekends? What are the weekends like at Indian Springs School? Are there events, on-campus, off-campus, clubs, activities, different trips?
Yeah, definitely. We have students from around the country and around the world, and so the vast majority of our boarding students are on campus throughout the entirety of the weekend. We have a great director of Res Life who's been leading boarding programs for 20-something years now, and he packs the weekends. And, it's everything from kind of the mundane but important stuff for us to offer, like trips to Target and Walmart and haircuts and things like that, to, every Saturday there's a farmer's market called Pepper Place Market that we take students to. We take students to restaurants, things like that. But then there's bigger stuff. We've taken our students whitewater rafting. We take our students to Six Flags just outside of Atlanta, professional sporting events, and more. So, it ranges, and it's like a food menu of options for our students each weekend, and they choose what they want to do.
So, Taylor, you mentioned the longer lunch period. So what are the meals like? Is it sit-down style? Is it buffet? Are they required? How does that work?
Yeah. The students here say that the food is good, and this is the first school I've ever worked at where students have said that. So that means a lot to us. The meals are not required, and some students pack, but at lunch it's going to be kind of buffet style and a number of different options. Proteins, pasta, there's a salad bar, there's a sandwich bar, There's desserts. There's all sorts of drinks. There's soft serve ice cream, which is, of course, a big hit. And students, choose what they'd like each day. There's an app where students can, kind of input in if they have any dietary restrictions, and it'll highlight what they can eat and what they can't, which I appreciate as someone who's gluten-free. And then, dinner, there's options as well. Maybe not quite as many as lunch, because we have about 340 kids who eat lunch and 110 who eat dinner. But, again, students choose what they'd like. The only other thing I'll add is every Wednesday we have community dining. And so that was last night. And, everybody is eating at certain tables, sit down, served at the same time. It's kind of a random pairing of faculty and students. And that's a nice little tradition.
Yeah, very nice. And how about dormitory life? Can you share with us, our audience, what dormitory life is like at Indian Spring School?
Yeah, we have a boys' dorm and a girls' dorm. Each has about 55 students in it. Again, students from Alabama, but around the country and around the world, 16 different countries. We have a lot of different sort of bedroom options. I mean, we have some singles, not many, but we do have some. We have doubles. It's probably the majority of the rooms. We have a few triples. We have what we call doubled suites, which is like where you walk into a room, there's a common room, there's a bathroom, and then there's kind of doubles off of the common room. And there's typically two doubles and then an RA in the middle. Those are mostly for underclassmen. And then we have single suites. Same thing, except off of the common room, you're going to have single rooms. So
nice.
A lot of
very
options.
similar to what you might find at a college, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. And is there an advisor system at Indian Spring School?
Yeah, there is. And students will start meeting with their advisor their very first week of classes. And you're randomly assigned your advisor your first year. But then we're actually kind of changing the advisory system now, where we're looking into pairing students with an advisor after their first year who they'll stay with throughout the entirety of their time at Springs.
Okay. And so would you say, is there a typical Indian Spring School student?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, like most independent schools, our students are academic and ambitious and high achieving. Most of our kids are the kind of kids who really love learning and love a specific sort of subject, or I guess path in learning. Our students are involved extracurricularly. Our students are, there's a pretty unique culture here. We're located in the South, and the Southern hospitality is a real thing. And so I think our students are not only academic and ambitious, but they're really quite warm and kind and welcoming, and they can be happy for others when they're successful. And that's something that kind of typifies the culture broadly, but also you see in individual students as well. And yeah, I mean, I would say that those are some of the qualities of a typical student here.
Okay, great. Are there any cool traditions, would you say, at Indian Spring School that may be unique from other schools? I know you mentioned the music and the choir program, or perhaps there's that one tradition that you hope always remains part of the school.
Yeah, for sure. We have a very unique student government. So we run our small school like it's a small town.
Okay.
And every week we have a town hall meeting. And it's built into the school day. It's on Mondays. It's from 9:50 to 10:20. And the entire school is there, and the meeting is run by a student mayor. And any student can sign up to speak. And really, I say sign up. The students just form a line if they want to speak. And so students can make an announcement about a club, but students can also advocate for some sort of change on campus in front of the whole school. And it's encouraged. And so there's just a ton of student voice in shaping how the school runs. And it's been that way since 1952. We call it participation in creation.
Okay.
And we think our students just learn a ton from being involved in these kind of conversations. And without question, there's a lot of formats this takes, but without question, the town hall is kind of the crown jewel of the whole program, and is every single week.
That's interesting. It seems very unique. I mean, so is there also like a student government, or is that it? That is a student government? Is there class president, vice president too, or is that something different?
Yeah. No, that's a good question, because there's actually a lot of layers to it. I mean, we have a student mayor, and there's a fall mayor and a spring mayor. But then we have what are called commissioners. And a commissioner is a student who leads a certain aspect of campus life. So we have commissioners of boarding, as you would suspect. They're meeting with faculty members to discuss boarding issues and improvements that they'd like to see. We have a commissioner of citizenship, a commissioner of protection. But we also have class reps. So 2 representatives from 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. That's maybe like a Congress sort of thing that meets with the mayor. And then we have a judiciary, a student judiciary, who helps to discuss some of the rules on campus, the norms. If a student gets in trouble, it's actually the student judiciary that might first make some decisions, of course, in private, confidentially, with some adult guidance, what the punishment might be. So, the students really own, in a lot of respects, the culture on campus, and, how the school runs to a certain extent, of course, with guardrails at every level. But we think that's important because they're teenagers. Sometimes with teenagers, if it's too top down from the adults, you get that sort of clash. And again, it's very bottom up here in grassroots. And we think the students buy into it a bit more because of that.
Well, Taylor, that certainly does seem like a perfect example of a school that's student driven. I mean, you sort of practice what you preach here. That's great.
Absolutely.
So before we go and dive into admissions, is there anything about Indian Springs School that we didn't discuss today that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we talked a little bit about learning through living that I said is important and manifests itself in a variety of ways. Our student government, I mean, maybe concretely, one of the things that makes us unique is that we offer independent studies. And we find that prospective families are very interested in that. So students can have a class where it's just them one-on-one meeting with the teacher. They give the class a title. They decide with the teacher what the final product is going to be. It goes on the transcript just like a normal class. And so we pride ourselves on personalizing the academic experience, but we sort of take that to the nth degree with these independent studies. But then also we have something called a capstone project, which is kind of like a mini PhD. That students, they start their research their junior year. They continue research between their junior and senior year. They're working one-on-one on this research project with a faculty member. They, write up a paper that's kind of much longer than your average high school paper. They present their research in front of a panel of faculty and defend their research as well. And I say that because we have students who know they love computer science. They might take a computer science elective or 2. Then they do an independent study because they know they want to apply computer science to X, Y, or Z problem. And then, again, they have this capstone project at the end where they can go even deeper. And our students love it because they like to explore their passions, of course. But it also helps our students tell a really compelling story in the college admission process. And we think that journey where it becomes more and more focused is something that distinguishes Springs.
Oh, absolutely. What an unbelievable experience for a student at such a young age.
Yep,
That's
absolutely.
Great. So if someone is interested in Indian Springs School, how might they go about starting the admissions process?
Yeah, reach out to us, anybody on my team, and we love to hop on the phone first thing and get a family story. Maybe more sort of pro forma is completing an inquiry form and then submitting the application, and we use SAO and have our own application. And then once they do that, they can start chipping away at the application checklist. We don't require folks to come out to campus, but we love to set up shadow days and tours and class visits and all of that. But yeah, just reach out. We want to start forming the relationship as early as possible.
And so what is the school's website address?
Yeah, it's indiansprings.org.
Okay, that's simple, indiansprings.org. Great.
That's right.
So Taylor, this is awesome. I appreciate you joining me here today, and this has been great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for the opportunity to talk Springs. Like I said, I think it's a special place.
Awesome. Taylor Docking, Director of Advancement and Enrollment Management, Indian Springs School. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Why Boarding School podcast. We look forward to you joining us for our next episode. Please remember to subscribe to the Why Boarding School podcast and help us spread the word. Until next time.